So at the time of recording, Alexander Isak is still a Newcastle player, but there is a plot twist behind this, and we're going to talk about that. And I believe it's going to impact the league greatly. But let's talk about this first. The first thing is that Darwin Nunez has agreed with Al Hilal to leave, right? Benjamin Sesko, at the time of recording, has agreed to go to Manchester United to Old Trafford. Why do I talk about these two transfers? Because of the main transfer that might and possibly is going to happen in Alexander Isak going to Liverpool. Now, this is going to be a video that is mainly for all football fans, of course, but specifically for Newcastle fans because I think it's something that needs to be discussed and because there has been a lot of conversation not only on Talk Sports or Sky Sports or in the mainstream media, but also on social media, and I believe it has to be spoken about. No, Newcastle fans, I want you to understand this and understand this clearly that you have a very good team. You are a good club. You are striving to be one of the best clubs in the world. You are striving to crack into the big six. And we, if football fans don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Manchester United, the Liverpool, the City, the Arsenal, the Chelsea, the Tottenham Hotspur. That big six right there. Newcastle are trying to crack into that. But the reality is, and that they took a reality check this summer because of what has happened in the transfer. They have complained about why PSR only addresses the lower clubs outside of the big six. Why is it that the PSR doesn't address the Manchester United spending? Or why doesn't PSR hammer down on the Chelsea spending? Why isn't PSR hands down going hard at Manchester City and their alleged 115 charges that is still yet to be determined? Why is it that PSR isn't harsh on those, but they're harsh on ours? Because they have pull. It's not only because it's the Manchester United culture or going to Old Trafford. It's because they are a brand. You are signing to a huge brand. Liverpool were upset at Trent Alexander-Arnold because mainly he should have just outright said that he wanted to go to Real Madrid and would have understood that from the get-go. But the thing is that Real Madrid is a bigger brand than Liverpool. And we have to accept that. Why is it that you can't accept that Manchester United is a bigger brand than Newcastle? Why is it hard to accept that it is possible that the team or the player in Benjamin Sesko did not favor Newcastle because Newcastle just did not have that pull? And nothing is wrong with that. However, this summer, you have punched well above your weight thinking because you have billion-dollar owners or a state backing you, it means that you can get any and anyone. It does not work like that because you still have a structure, a weight structure that still cannot compete with the big six. No, I've heard multiple persons, great content creators, saying that but PSR is supposed to put a limit on how teams are supposed to spend, or their wage structure is supposed to be compliant to PSR. It has been. But because Manchester United's marketing team is way better than yours, and possibly most of the big six, like Manchester City and Chelsea, theirs doesn't correlate to yours. It's not the same. They are strawberries and grapes and you're just a nice apple. Nothing is wrong with that. Everyone likes different things. But the greater the brand, the more sponsors that you're going to get. Are you telling me that you have bigger sponsorship deals than Manchester United? No, you do not. Are you telling me that when you go to a preseason game, are you saying that your team can fill out an entire stadium? No, it does not. Are you saying that when persons tune in to watch Newcastle United from different apps, from different broadcast networks, that it is bigger than Manchester United? No, it is not. Why is that? It's because Manchester United, the brand, is still bigger. And what is funny is that persons have taken to heart what Jim Ratcliffe has said, I think, in December, when he said that Manchester United are strapped for cash and are broke. It is possible that they are, and probably on the verge of bankruptcy, but they still are recouping money, not just only in player sales, which I don't know how they do it, but they're still getting money from big brand sponsors. And you aren't. So they're able to go and say, we can get a Benjamin Sesko. They're able to look at a Mbuemo and say, we can get an Embuemo. They're able to look at Wolves and like, we want. And funnily, all three that I've just named were linked to Newcastle. And Newcastle has Champions League. Manchester United don't. What does that say? And it's funny because Newcastle fans are of this mindset that all's well in love and war and it should be fair. It's not fair. Like they're throwing tantrum like life is fair. No, it's not. Life isn't fair. You have to grab the bull by the horn and take what you want. But you have to do it differently. If I were to ask Newcastle fans, how many players have you sold since you have bought Alexander Isak, since you have bought Batman, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, who's the next person? Anthony Gordon. How many players between 2021 to 2025 have you sold? And how much money have you recouped for spending near £500 million? You're more likely to tell me maybe 3 or 4. And the truth is, you sold around 5 or 6 and recouped, I think, £130 million in the space of 5 years or 4 years, while spending near £500 million. But you still don't have in consistent times or consistent games in European competitions, and you're not making enough to even win cup. So what is going to happen? What exactly was the plan? That you're going to spend your way to the top? No, it doesn't work like that. And the reality is, you are still a very good club. One of the best fan bases in England, not in the world. That is the truth. And what is even more concerning is that they have not even took, I think some have, but most, I'm going to say most Newcastle fans have not looked and said, why is it that players are turning us down? Why is it that our boardroom doesn't know what they're doing? And there are 3 things that I believe that you have to look at for this summer transfer. And this summer transfer has been a reality check for you because of what has happened or what has transpired for Newcastle in terms of transfers. Because one of the main things and the main point is, do you have a vision? What is the vision of Newcastle? You don't have a CEO. You pushed out your former CEO / owner, and then you don't have a director or sportive director in football. What exactly is the plan going into the season or into the summer transfer window? What exactly is the vision? What is the short-term vision? Okay, this summer transfer, we're going to look at players that are going to help. We may not spend, we can spend like 80, but what is the likelihood that some of these players are going to come to Newcastle? That's the short term. Medium term, what in 5 years, how do we consistently be in European competitions for us to be taken seriously by other big names? And then 10 years, during the 5 years in medium term, you're still looking to challenge for top 4 and maybe the Premier League title. And then 10 to 15 years long term, we should be competing for Champions League and competing for the Premier League title, hopefully winning one by then. What exactly is the plan? What was the vision? The thing that you're just going to spend and say, we're going to put money at Cunha and he's going to say yes. No, he hasn't said yes. All right, forget that. We're going to put money at Embuemo and it's going to work out. Okay, it didn't work out. All right, next one. We're going to put money at Dilap, at Liam. Didn't work out. He goes to Chelsea. What is happening? All right, forget that. You know what? We still have Alexander Isak. We're going to put money towards Benjamin Sesko. And if that works, we're going to keep Alexander Isak. It doesn't work like that. I don't know what is happening because the owners promised a new stadium or reinvest in the stadium hasn't happened. The owners promised that we're supposed to improve the pitch side hasn't happened. The owners promised that we can get some shops or gift shops in, that we can improve and get the stadium bigger and, you know, persons can come and commercialize it as best as possible. Still hasn't happened. The owner said that we're supposed to get some new players coming in. That hasn't happened. Your scouting department hasn't happened. What exactly is the vision? What exactly is happening? And it has shown clearly that there is no vision. If you're using the biblical sense of it, without the vision, people perish. And you're perishing, unfortunately. And this trickles down, when there's a lack of vision, boardroom level, it trickles down into the players. Hence, Alexander Isak, who is absolutely upset at what is happening. Certain reports have said that promises were made and clearly they have not been fulfilled, and he wants to leave. He wants a better life for himself. It's not just about bigger club and wages. I believe that if there were structures in place and promises that were fulfilled and there was evidence of things happening, then I believe Alexander Isak would have stayed maybe a year or more without any issues. But clearly there isn't. And the poor thing is that Eddie Howe now is going to go into this season with a very depleted squad, very thin, light in depth, probably doesn't have the striker that he wants and still doesn't have enough backing from the owners because it's PSR. Really? But again, it's the lack of vision. And my second point to that is, when Alexander Isak leaves, are you going to reinvest wisely? Because reinvestment is important. Reinvestment is not just about performance on the pitch, it's about the global brand. What Newcastle can do to push their brand out into the world. Where exactly are your strong areas, or strong points for Newcastle to reinvest and say, at this part of the world, maybe in Asia or in parts of Europe or within South America, North America, wherever. This part, I believe that Newcastle are able to have a bigger impact. And who knows, your impact could be in South America. You could get more South American players. It could happen, but you have not reinvested wisely. You have gotten billion-dollar owners and thinking that throwing money at every single solution or every single problem is the best way possible without having a structure plan in place. Reinvest wisely. One of the best clubs at reinvesting their money is Brighton. Whether you believe it or not that you're better than Brighton, who cares? So what? Brighton's scouting department is one of the best. They can lose Alex McAllister and Caicedo and still come back with Baliba. That is absolutely crazy. It's almost like the quality has fallen off just a little bit, but they're still able to reinvest and scout better because their plan or vision is that we just don't want to compete or stay in the league. We want to compete for European places. Hopefully, by the grace of God and fingers crossed, we're able to make it in the Champions League. Possibly. But there is a plan. Okay, Newcastle, what is your plan? If we sell it, or when we sell Isak, this is what we're going to do with the money. We're going to have this year, we have to get a striker. Find a striker that backs the data, that backs what Eddie Howe is looking for, and then reinvest that in various areas of your team. You still don't have a centre back. You are light at centre back. You still don't have enough bodies in the midfield. What exactly is the plan if you can't reinvest wisely into your team? Reinvest into the infrastructure of getting a better pitch, of getting a better stadium, of bringing Newcastle or the Geordies to life in the northern part of England. And funny enough, I'm not even in England and I'm trying to give you the information as it is. It's crazy because PSR doesn't want us to spend like the big six. Stop finding excuses and invest. Find a good CEO that is able to back or implement the vision that the club is looking to have. Find a sporting director and a supporting cast for the sporting director that is able to bring the vision and say, these are the players that we want. You have a very good manager in Eddie Howe, and you can get quality players. You can find gems. Modern Liverpool weren't like that 10 years ago or 15 years ago. We were still a laughing stock. Yes, we had the history, but history doesn't say anything. When Liverpool sold Luis Suarez, they bought Lazar Markovic, guys. So it's about what can you reinvest in? What are your strong points? What do we need to do to push Newcastle, the brand, out there? Because many persons, and yes, it's talked about in Europe, but many persons, if I ask in the street, do you know about Newcastle? Some will say yes, but more often than not, they're like, who? And the reason why a person might say yes, they know about Newcastle because they're in the transfer saga with Liverpool for Alexander Isak. So reinvesting wisely is very, very important for Newcastle. And this summer should be one that you have to look back and say, this has been a piss poor summer in terms of transfer, but lack of vision. Cannot invest wisely into the club, because if you don't, then you're unable, as the third point is, able to take risks that back your vision, able to take risks that back your data. Liverpool is one of the best team, probably the best team in the world at it, in terms of what the data provides, manager wants, and what the sporting director can get. No, they're able, because they have slowly, organically shown success not only in domestic competition but in Europe. Maybe not winning the league every single season, or at least making it through rounds, making it through different years, scoring goals, having generational talents, having players go beyond, above and beyond, becoming legends. Players like Virgil van Dijk, players like Alisson, players like Mohamed Salah, players like Sadio Mane, and the list goes on and on. But it came with structure. You have the missing piece, which was to get a very good manager in Eddie Howe that you have. That foundation has been laid. Now build upon that. Try to get a sporting director. Take the risk. Now, in terms of, we can maybe say, we're going to try for probably one player and see if we can build the team around him. Jurgen Klopp had that player in Coutinho and wanted to build the team around. Coutinho said, no, I want to go to Barca. Did everything that he could. Same thing like Isak. And eventually in January, he left for over 140 million. Liverpool do reinvest. They took the risk of getting a centre-back, breaking a world record fee for Virgil van Dijk, reinvesting that in the summer, came close to winning Champions League in 2018, came close and said, you know what, we need a keeper, we need a defensive midfielder, we need probably another midfielder just to have an able body. And then what happened the following season? 97 points, won the Champions League because they took calculated risks. That's the most important thing. Taking calculated risks. But the truth is, it's PSR that is fighting against us. It's not. It's your inept. You are inept at making wise decisions. You are inept closing the deal. You are inept of reinvesting wisely. And that comes from the owners all the way down to Eddie Howe, because he has to take blame for this as well. It's not, he can't be devoid of blame at no point in time. It happens. And I had to do this video because I had to get it off my chest. And the unfortunate thing is that you're going to lose a player who wanted to stay initially because of the promises that were made, but they weren't fulfilled. So you went back on your promise, and now you're going to lose a player. You lose Benjamin Sesko, you lose Ekitike, and you're going to lose Alexander Isak. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Do you think that it's really PSR that's fighting against Newcastle? Do you think that Newcastle are just bad at trying to find the best solutions possible? Or is it a case that PSR really is trying to fight against you? You let me know. Until next time, guys, peace.